Gabby, a number of people getting in touch with the show as well. So very sad news on Eddie Jordan. The silent killer takes another great man after experiencing stage 3 prostate cancer myself. Remember, everyone, please get tested, particularly if symptoms exist. And that's from Mike this morning. RIP to Eddie Jordan. Remember hearing him on the show so recently on talkSPORT. Rest in peace. That's from Jason in Basingstoke. And then also the world of Formula One. Gab's reacting as well.
Yes.
Just on social media just now, the Formula One X page were deeply saddened to hear about the sudden loss of Eddie Jordan. With his inexhaustible energy, he always knew how to make people smile, remaining genuine and brilliant at all times. Eddie had been a protagonist of an era of F1 and he will be deeply missed. David Lamb, the comedian, has said, shared some wonderful pictures with him online as well.
Lovely.
He said, sleep well, Eddie. What a true Irish legend. Motorsports will not be the same without you. Carlos Sainz as well, the driver, he says, very, very sad to hear the news of Eddie Jordan's passing away. He was a true friend of his friends. He was a really charismatic person inside the Formula One world. And also Killian Byrne, Irishman here, he says, Eddie Jordan was one person in my youth that made me feel incredibly proud to be Irish. That someone from little old Ireland could perform and win on such a global scale was so unusual at that time. Rest in peace. Oh, that's a lovely message from Killian, and on St Patrick's Week as well.
Oh, of course, yeah, and you know, everyone's going to be mourning, aren't they? But then we want him celebrated as well, Shebahn. That's really important. And all through the week now, you want, and into next week and weeks afterwards, you want him celebrated for the positive effect he's had on so many people.
Absolutely. Sounds like there's been so much of that as well.
Exactly.
Joining us now to pay tribute to Eddie is rally driver, motorsports pundit and former F1 assistant team manager Tony Jardine. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Tony.
Sorry to bring you on under these circumstances. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's lots of us know Eddie very well, but Eddie and I go back from almost when he started, early days, Formula 3 driver, Atlantic driver, forming his own team. His Formula 3 team, Martin Brundle, drove for him, and they had a massive battle in Formula 3 with Ayrton Senna. You know, I mean, Eddie was controversial to the last, as we all know, and a hustler and a wheeler dealer, but his charisma and his character took him through. And, you know, I was with him on that journey through to Formula 3000 when Eddie Irvine, who became a Ferrari driver, a Northern Irishman, who drove for him. Michael Schumacher drove for him very, very briefly at Spa. But we're talking about the last of the privateers that forged this incredible team based at Silverstone, ending up having a 1-2 at the Belgian Grand Prix. And Damon Hill, world champion, who joined the team, won that race. Ralf Schumacher was second, then they had their final win in Brazil with Giancarlo Fisichella. But I think it's just sharing the passion with Eddie that we'll always remember. You know, he started at the end of the Silverstone Grand Prix because I was on the board of the BRDC at Silverstone, and we were getting great crowds, but how to entertain them afterwards and prevent them all rushing for the gate. And Eddie did this little concert and we got involved, and it became a massive after race concert with Eddie playing drums, ringing bands on, me hosting it. You know, we'd have big parties together down at his place in Spain. It was always incredibly entertaining. But sadly for me, just over a year and a half ago, a great colleague of Eddie's died, and Eddie flew in from the Caribbean just to be with us on stage to pay tribute to one of his friends. You know, myself and some other journalists have been emailing Eddie and getting no replies. Obviously, he was fighting the fight and sadly losing the battle.
Oh, that's so incredibly sad. Can you tell us about the times that maybe you've interviewed him in the past and what he was like there on the job and on the grid? I imagine so many people sharing some colourful stories, and you're smiling away now. There must be some good memories there.
Well, because, you know, it was no nonsense. He'd say to me, TJ, you know, take their trousers down, just don't have any of it, just whack them, etc. And vice versa when he was coming in, because obviously I spent my time with Sky and BBC and ITV and all that sort of business. But when he was coming into punditry, you know, we talked a lot about what he should do and how he should do it. So a lot of stories you couldn't talk about. some of the things that we got up to. But one of the things I will always remember is, you know, he was on the knife edge a lot of the time, especially in the early days, and trying to get the Grand Prix team going, because he'd had success to a degree. And one of our big American clients, he'd got a proposal in and he thought he was there with the sponsorship, which would have meant everything. But it didn't happen. He flew over to the United States and just doorstepped them. You know, that's the sort of thing that he would absolutely do. And right to the end, he was still involved, because you know, he managed Adrian Newey. The massive deal that Adrian Newey has now with Aston Martin is due to Eddie Jordan. You know, he pushed. It was between Ferrari and them. He was upping the ante and getting that. So I know Adrian, and I know Adrian very well. We're absolutely so sad this morning. He's not just lost a friend. You know, he's lost his manager. But then again, controversial to the end, because he had the inside line, and he would break news on BBC or Channel 4 and say, so-and-so's going to drive for such and such team. And I go, where'd you get that from? How did that happen? But he knew, and he knew the line. But he said what he felt, and he felt very, very strongly that Ferrari should not have signed Lewis Hamilton. And he said they must be crazy to have done that. But he got a mild rebuke back from Mr. Hamilton, as you'd expect. And I don't know whether Anthony will mention that on Jim White's show. I'm not sure.
Possibly.
Because again, Jim and I used to do a lot together on Sky on Formula One. And I think, you know, it's this thing about demystify and simplify a technological sport to help bring it to the masses. And that's what Eddie did. And he not only proved that he could take a team from nothing to be absolute winners, but that he could explain in such great terminology to you know, the broad church of enthusiasts, sports enthusiasts, to understand the intricacies of Formula One. And that's not easy to do, and that's a rare talent. But he could make you laugh along the way, which was very, very important.
Absolutely. Just before we let you go, Tony, is it true that he once kind of got you a bit of a winner by maybe pouring some water somewhere that he shouldn't have poured some water on you? Is that a thing we can talk about, or no?
Yeah. In the middle of a live broadcast, yes, and down the front of my trousers, and it looked like I'd had an accident.
So I want you to give us, what legacy will Eddie leave behind, please?
I think you know, he forged a pathway for the Irish to come into the sport. I mean, properly. You know, you had John Watson before that, but Eddie Irvine became a winner at Ferrari, and because he was such a passionate nationalist as well, he helped elevate Formula One to being such a huge sport in Ireland. And so many more Irish drivers, not just racing drivers, rally drivers, and there are huge schemes from Motorsport Ireland now, which Eddie Jordan has had a lot to do with. And we mustn't forget his love of sport, because you know, at World Cups with Ireland, you'd see Eddie sitting in the box with the Irish. You'd see him down at Chelsea loving his football, just loving all his sport. And you know, that enthusiasm for me was always infectious, and I will always remember him dearly in my heart. Yeah,
that's really nice stuff. Yes. Tony Jardine, thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
for coming on and sharing your insight. Lovely stuff. Rally driver there, motorsports pundit, and former F1 assistant team manager Tony Jardine, and that touching tribute towards Eddie Jordan, who sadly passed away at the age of 76. And everyone here at talkSPORT, lots of you getting in touch this morning, sharing your love and support to the entire F1 community following that devastating news. You're listening to talkSPORT. Morning.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.